talk about the ground rules and chats. And if you want to take, will you take over the chats and handling the question side of things? Or I'm sorry, if somebody has a chat or a comment, and keep me on track as far as time wise, is that okay?
Of course.
Okay, excellent. So, yeah, my name is Henry Glickel. I'm a member of Phi Eta Chi from Stockton. It's now called Stockton University. I always wonder, is it the year you get initiated or the year you graduate college that you end up, what year you use? I got initiated in '83 and graduated college in '85. So, and I forgot what it was. 85. So I'm an '85 grad. Foundation was very good to me. They got me a scholarship, and they also got me a loan to get through grad school, and I greatly appreciate that. And the Bedfords and West Angler and Spencer and Scott Carlson, wonderful people. It's funny, every once in a while I'll see resumes. I'm a headhunter, and I receive resumes from individuals, and I'll see Alpha Chi Rho. Every single time I have to pick up the phone and call them, no matter what, just to see however I can help them. And it's always a pleasure. Some great candidates and individuals. It's been a pleasure. So I was asked to do a webinar, and I've watched a few of them, and the first two. And to make a long story short, my topic probably is not as exciting as I forget the brother from Philadelphia who was talking about beer and alcohol consumption. And it was like all this stuff about what's going to happen, and microbrews are going to be challenged because you're not going to be able to pour. Everything's going to be in cans and bottles, and so it's going to have impact. I was transfixed for an hour, and I don't even drink beer. Okay, I drink some wine and maybe a gin and tonic every once in a while, but I was entranced for an hour about beer. So that was good. And then the first one, the brother who I think he was down in the, it was on COVID, and he talked about, and he said, what was funny is a lot of things he said literally came true. It's going to happen here. It's going to turn here. Here are the issues that we're facing. And, if history pervades itself, this is what's going to transpire. I mean, it was just, what's funny is, and then I watched it a year later, and I'm sitting there going like, oh my God, it's happened. So, but it's, so my hope is that I bring some information now that this hopefully is being recorded, that there'll be, and Nick, you're going to take care of that recording, right? Okay. So maybe future individuals may find this of use who are unable to attend tonight. It's hard with a lot of things going on for people to make the trek or the commitment, but we'll have this available to them, and they've been wonderful webinars. So Nick, I'm going to, I've been recruiting for 25 years. I've placed over 2,070 people. I own a firm called Sales Recruiters. My email is henry@salesrecruiters.com. If anyone needs me, if you want to send me a LinkedIn invitation, I'll be happy to accept. I'm on Facebook. I'm connected to a lot of brothers on Facebook. It's just Henry Glickel in Salem, New Hampshire. I think if you see my picture, you'll see at the end of our dock, there's a picture of a heron at the end of a boat. And that was kind of a cool picture. So I made that my basic picture for Facebook. So if you need to get a hold of me, certainly doing that. My phone number, by the way, is 603-894-0007, extension 215. So you got 4 ways of getting a hold of me. If you're listening to this well after this, feel free and give me a call. If you're listening to this 20 years from now, hopefully I'm still around to be able to answer your questions for you. So tonight's topic, Nick, why don't you introduce the topic? Or if you want me to, I can read off the topic. But what the heck, I'll read it off.
Yeah, I was like, if you wouldn't mind, because I don't want to misspeak.
Okay. But basically, by the way, I love the takeoff on Alpha Chi Rhoad show. Presents Judgment by Intrinsic Worth. Episode 9 is what employers are really looking for. So my hope is to be able to give you some input on what companies and employers and hiring managers are looking for, from somebody that literally is talking to them every day and setting up interviews every day and getting candidates for offer stage, and following a lot of places through. It's more than just sending a resume as a recruiter, sending a resume and somebody hires them. There's a lot of legwork in between, in preparation and screening, and even down to the end after the offer, after the client says, or the company says they want to offer the position to the individual. There are times where they go, okay, that's great, and somebody drops the ball and go, where's the offer coming? Who's the offer coming from? When is it coming from? And almost like I have to keep an eye on it and keep moving. So basically, my job here is to basically give you an idea about the perspective of an employer from over 2,000 searches that I've done. So, but let's talk a little bit about the current landscape in hiring. And Nick, if you could do me a favor, there was a graphic up on contract and contingent workforce. If you can bring that up for me, I greatly appreciate that. And while he's doing that, the workforce before COVID was changing. It's changing more now. But basically, this is a graphic that came to me from a periodical from the National Association of Personnel Services, and it's a survey that was done, and they grabbed, and it basically talked about the impact of changing nature of work, and basically what is it that we're seeing. And what we're seeing now is at companies are beginning to, 41% of all companies are saying that they're going to use more using contingent employees. What are contingent employees? Contingent employees are independent contractors, part-timers, temporary or leased employees. They're through temp agencies, employment agencies, individuals that are contracting themselves out on a 1099 hourly or project basis. And more companies are going to be hiring more individuals. And individuals, can you hold on 1 second? I don't know what that is. I don't know. There we go. Sorry about that. The refrigerator door was open and I was alerted to it. So I'm glad it beeped at me. So 41% of all hiring is going to be increasing in 41% of the companies that were surveyed. And this is not surprising because more people are going to be going to a contingency or project-based situations. Companies are going to want the flexibility, and individuals want the flexibility. Those individuals may want to work 9 months out of the year and take 3 months off. They may want to work for 3 months and take 2 weeks off. The traditional employee-employee relationship may be changing. This is happening very prevalent in things like IT, nursing, and certain aspects of healthcare, nursing, and doctors. We're seeing this now in dentists and dental practices. We're seeing it in not so much in sales, but we're seeing it in a lot of other areas. In addition to that, 35% of companies are going to be increasing the use of intermediate or seasonal employees. Now, seasonal and intermediate employees are normally expected in things like farming and other seasonal things, working at amusement parks and things like that that may close because of winter or weather. But it's happening in other companies, more professional companies, because they're seeing seasonality influxes, needs for more people, but only during certain parts of the year. So they're beginning to think about paying more for them, but not being as committed. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, or a couple minutes. Also, individuals that are companies are looking at 34% are saying they're going to use consultant employees. And I think that's happening a lot, whereas the labor pool is tight, and I'll explain that in a little while. But basically, individuals that are retiring are being induced to come back as consultants, maybe on a part-time basis, because they have the intellectual knowledge in their head that needs to be transferred, or the institutional knowledge that needs to be transferred. And it's not something that can be transferred in 2 weeks. It takes sometimes months or even years. So after somebody retires, some companies are bringing them back to be consultants, either on a part-time basis or back as not as an employee, but in the same role. 26% are increasing the use of paid interns. What I will tell you is all of my clients I'm recommending is do not use unpaid interns. There's some very restrictive legal things that you have to abide by to make them unpaid. But 14% are going to be using unpaid. But the woes that are, so basically increasing unpaid interns, they're very restricted about what they can use them for. But to make a long story short, if you look across, these are all seasonal, contingent, intermittent, contracting, contingent, part-time, either employees or consultants. And companies across the board are seeing increases of the use of them. And one of the reasons why I think you're going to see this is the cost of benefits, especially medical benefits, is significant. Companies that I know, average family of 4 with a $2,000 deductible, a good plan with a $2,000 deductible, and which per person with a $6,000, which is now going to become more common for a family of 4, is $30-some thousand a year. Now, if that's 30-some thousand, and the employee's paying half and the employer's paying half, or you're going to see that that's a significant commitment. That's almost $900 to $1,200 a month commitment on both the employer cost and the employee cost. We're finding now, in some cases, the benefits can cost as much as 22% of a person's salary. It could be even more if they're a lower paid individual. So that's what we're beginning to see. So companies are looking at ways of working around it. Also, individuals want more flexibility at work. And one of the ways of doing that is through this alternative arrangement. Now, the impact of changing this job is it's going to require companies to require changes to comp plans. It's going to require changes, and that was 46%, an increase in training and investment in training, because as people come and go, it's not like when they leave, when they come back 3 months later, things may have changed in the company, new processes, new certifications, things like that. 44% are seeing and are going to see that changing nature. They're going to see those requiring increases in training. Also, in changes in employee technology, individuals at home having Zoom. I'm seeing employers now reimbursing for high-speed internet access, providing computers and webcams, or providing an allotment of a compensation that's tied to those kind of equipment needs. Also, requirements in HR technology to allow people to remotely communicate in relation to that. So what does this do? What this does is there is a benefit for individuals who are more experienced and older, because there is a perfect storm, for lack of a better word, for recruiters per se. But what's happening is many individuals who are of the Gen Xers and the baby boomers are already retiring. I heard 10,000 people a day. I don't know how much longer that will last because they may run out of people retiring per se. But even if they retire, some of them are coming back because there's just in that next generation, the millennials and the Gen Xers, Gen Zs, there's just not enough of them to fill the roles that the baby boomers, or really Gen Xers, are beginning to retire, or the baby boomers are retiring from, and the Gen Xers are beginning to retire from. I'm on that cusp of Gen X and baby boomer. I'm at the end of the baby boomer, beginning of the Gen Xer. However, I'm 57 years old. No, I'm sorry, I'm 58 years old. So in reality, a lot of individuals are looking at retirement at 58. Hopefully I can still work until I'm 70. I do enjoy what I do. There are certain, last year was a little challenging, but for the most part, I like what I do. And if people like what they do, they may do it, but they may do it in a less hours and things like that. But what does this create for the company? The companies are going to become more flexible in relation to looking for the skill sets, traits, and attributes. However, it does not mean that they're not going to ignore them just because they have these openings. They still want people who are qualified, experienced, and things like that. But what they're doing is companies, if you look at it this way, companies are looking for three things. Okay, when they're evaluating somebody, either a resume, an interview, a Zoom meeting, a phone screen, an in-person interview, a panel interview, whatever, they're looking for three things. And that's where most people got to be cognizant of. If you're interviewing or thinking about going for the job, number one is, can the person do the job? That means, do they have the experience? Do they have the skill sets? Do they have the certifications? Do they have the writing knowledge? Do they have the sales skills, the acumen, the training, and things like that? Second thing they're looking for after the can do is the will do. And that's important because the will do is basically the desire of the individual. Somebody can maybe have the skills, but they don't have the desire. And without the desire, it's really hard to convince somebody just because you have the experience. If you don't have the desire or will to do it, companies look for that, and they'll ask for it in different ways. And the last thing is, will they mesh with the company? Meaning, do they match with the company culture? It's interesting. I talked to a candidate today. They are going in for a second interview with one of my clients. And we talk about things like career wounds and why you're looking at leaving. And he basically said, this firm is very myopic in their thinking, and they hire a certain kind of individual. And they look for them, and if they see it on the resume, they automatically bring them in, and they almost have an advantage. And because of that, what they do is they will not hire outside that scope, or it's very hard for them to hire outside that scope. And that affects what they call the corporate culture. And that corporate culture is more of and there's nothing wrong with being militaristic, but they're very regimented and focused and very blinders on. It doesn't matter what's happening on the outside. This is what we do. This is our process. So they find individuals coming from certain lines of work or certain experience that relies on that. So that's their corporate culture. And individuals coming in are realizing a year or two down the road that this is not the right place for them, and they're looking at making a move. So in reality, companies are being more cognizant now than ever before of that meshing with corporate culture. So when people go in for interviews, this is where most people, it was interesting. There was a brother, he was a fraternity brother. He passed away of MS. and he graduated with me. And his name was Tom. And Tom used to coordinate interviews, and one of them was with the company he was working for, which was AT&T. And this was 30 years ago. And he basically said to one of the brothers who was nervous going in the interview, he said, listen, they're bringing you in because they see something and they like you. Nobody wants to waste the time in bringing you in for an interview if they don't think that you have the experience. So don't go in a defensive mode, but go in with the knowledge and a mindset that they're there because they see something in you. Your job is to find out what they see and to make sure that you're reinforcing that. Either can do, will do, or corporate culture fit. And that individual ended up getting the job because his mindset changed in the interview or before the interview. Tom did a great job of preparing him for the interview, and the individual got the job and literally was there for 25 years. And I think he recently left to go to another tech company. But what people do is companies hire, employers hire you for one thing and one thing only, and that's to solve problems. And that's where most people don't get it. They're solving a problem, and the problem is usually revolved around two things. One is an individual that can increase revenues or decrease expenses. Now, there's other things that affect that, like marketing exposure and things like that. But guess what? That's about increasing revenue. It doesn't necessarily mean salesperson. It could be people that influence the revenue side or people who are expense related that can help drive expenses down, increase efficiencies and things like that. So the idea behind this is companies create openings, not for the hell of it. They create these openings because they simply hire people to solve problems. They have a problem, they want to solve it. It's like when I go to the doctor and I'm not feeling well, I'm going there to have him or her solve a problem. You go to a lawyer to solve a problem. I have to incorporate this company, or I have to take this client to collections or something, but they hire somebody to solve a problem, increase their revenue or reduce expenses. So the key is that when you're going into an interview is to really focus in on what is it that you do. Do you increase the revenue, and how do you do that? Or do you reduce expenses? And what are the problems that they have, and what have you done in the past to solve those problems? Invariably help. One of the things that I recommend to people, and I'm going to do a session on this at convention in early June, and that is answering the question, tell me about yourself. Many people have an issue or worry about the tell me about yourself question. And here's the advice I give to people. And I have an article, and certainly Nicholas can share it with you if he wants, or if you want to email me and I'll send it directly to you. But the tell me about yourself question is a 2-minute summary that is customized to the position. Now, the reason why is you have a general 2-minute commercial about yourself or 2-minute thing. However, every time you interview, you're going to customize that specific tell me about yourself to the position itself. And the idea is that how do you find, or how do you customize it? Well, the way you do that is you look at the job description that's being posted or that you're interviewing for, you responded to, and print that off. And I want you to think of that job description is the responsibilities, other than being able to lift 75 pounds, most of them are relevant to experience, traits, and attributes and behavior. All comes down to those 4 things: experience, traits, behavior, and attributes. And values, traits, behavior, experience, and attributes. It's like 4 or 5 of them. But what they do is in their mind, they have, and many times they have it on a piece of paper sitting in front of them, literally a set of questions. When did you do this? How did you do that? And in their mind, every time you answer one of those questions, they check it off. They either check it off in their head or they check it off on a piece of paper that you have that experience. And the person that has the most check marks, usually, unless they're really jerks on the phone or in the interview, most of the time are going to move on in the interview process. So what you do is you look at the interview process. You interview the job description. And from that job description, very specifically from that job description, is you customize your 2-minute summary, customized to a position. So for example, if you were saying, I'm just using an example, let's say you were interviewing for a recruiter position. And in the job description, it said the ability to make phone calls, ability to engage people, the ability to get a hold of difficult individuals that are hard to track down, ability to uncover very private information about people before you put them in on the interview, and ability to be goal-oriented and achievement-centered. Well, if that's on the job description and I'm interviewing for it, I'm going to make sure that I bring out in my 2-minute, tell me about yourself. Hi, my name is Henry Glickel. I'm a 1985 graduate of Stockton University. I went on to grad school where I got my MBA. Over the last 25, went to work for corporate America for 3 years and have been in recruiting for the last 25. I've been the president of the company. I've worked my way up. I've sat on 2 boards of software companies. And in relation to recruiting, I've made 2,000 placements. I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. Everything's related directly around that job description. When somebody does that in the head of the hiring authority, then they start opening up because they go, we have an individual here that has experience, has the traits, has the attributes, has the behavior, and has the values of what we're looking for. And that's what's always in that job description. By the way, along the way, if anyone has any questions or comments, just feel free to chime in, or Nick can play traffic cop there. So, but this checklist mentality allows people to, again, when you're looking at and you're getting ready to interview, here's when the things look at. Review the job experience, the responsibilities and activities, and bring out exact experience or qualities that are directly related to that specific item on the job description. Now, maybe you don't have a lot of experience on it, but you don't have to say that you're an expert on it, but you can say, I am very well, I've used Salesforce.com in 2 of my last 3 jobs. Now, it may be that you only used it for 2 or 3 months before they moved over to another system, but you don't want to say, well, I only have 2 months at this company and 3 months at that company. Instead of saying, well, I used Salesforce.com, got trained on it, certified in it before they moved on to another CRM that looked very much like Salesforce. In fact, it was an in-house version. My gut tells me the screens look the same, that it was a Salesforce.com or Salesforce software, customized software. Well, guess what? Somebody's saying, number 1, they have Salesforce. 2, they made a conversion to another software. 3, it's an internal customized thing that may be related to customer. And by the way, that's what happens with most companies. They use Salesforce.com, then they customize Salesforce within the in-house. That happens very prevalently in sales. So, but the point is, you don't want to downplay and say, I only have 3 months exact experience at this one job. What you want to do is talk about, the real intention is, tell me about your experience with Salesforce and CRMs. Because if you look at CRMs, 90% of them all look the same. It's just the fields are in different places. So whether it's Bullhorn or Salesforce or a variety of others, it doesn't matter. It's a CRM with the same 90% fields. So, but if you know you're going on for an interview at Sales and they requiring Salesforce.com, just go online. And the beautiful part of things now is just go on YouTube and say demo of Salesforce, or show me how shortcuts in Salesforce. In 2 hours, you can know about 30% of what you need to do to have a good understanding about what Salesforce does. So I'm just using that as an example. But the idea is they want to like you. It's not that they don't want to like you. They could say we're interviewing 20 people, yet they don't want to interview 20 people, but in reality, they have to. The job is, when you're doing the interview, is to get them understanding your experience and how it's related to what they're looking for. What I'll tell you is, in certain markets right now, hospitality, hotels, they're challenging. Right now, the unemployment is higher there than in most places. But what I'll tell you is, in healthcare, in IT, and professional sales, very hard to find people. I am what used to be 10 to 15 interviews that I had to, work on. Now I'm down sometimes to 2 or 3. I've had clients make a decision on one person that fit the profile. We showed them what the results were, but we said, this is the person we feel that's most effective. You can do these other interviews, but this one's the best one. And we've had a company do an interview and hire based on one individual. But so the idea is to know in your industry, what are the trends? And you don't want to go in there and brag that it's a tough finding people, but the idea is to know. And there are people that go into interviews and are just truly arrogant. And it happens a lot in technology. Well, I know this and I know that, and I want this and I deserve that, and my company and did this and my company did that, and they're bad mouthing their company. But in reality, a person that goes in that understands what they're looking for and looks at and see what their corporate culture is like. And it's really easy to see on social media and Glassdoor. You'll see, you can dismiss a lot of negative things on Glassdoor because most people go on Glassdoor to bemoan a company. But if you look about the corporate culture and things like that, you'll get a good understanding about what they're like. And in an interview, that's a good thing to bring in to an interview. But basically, as I said before, there's not enough people for the positions that are available. Unemployment in many industries in many areas of the country are at 3 and 4%. Optimum unemployment is 5% and above. People start to worry. Under 5%, it's a challenge. You can't find people. The difference between 5% and 4% is basically 20% more opportunities or 20% less candidates. Well, that's a real challenge. You reduce the candidate pool by 20%. Sometimes you can remove that out. So, that's a good question. What are some of the businesses that, some of the business I place on? Okay. I place in sales. I have worked on IT and finance, very limited, only when a client asks me. But mostly sales, customer support, client success. Digital marketing now is very big. Client success, inside sales. There a lot of inside sales is going remote. Professional inside sales. A lot of IT technology software firms are taking a new model called the SDR model, and they're moving everybody from an SDR. A lot of companies that I know of are promoting from within because they're trying to do their best to keep their people. And one of the best things you can do is show that your people have a opportunity for growth. So, okay. Let's talk a little bit about, I think there's another article. Can you bring up that other article, Nicholas? I think it's an article, I don't know if I sent it was in the New York Times, by the way, sent to me from another brother. I'm sorry, nope, this is the other thing. Okay. Let's bring this up. The 5 trends in recruiting. The use of gamification. I dismiss that because it's not relevant to this thing. It's more related to companies themselves. But the next thing is a multi-generational workforce. The workforce now is become over, even with the baby boomers now, they're beginning to see, if we could expand that out a little bit, that'd be great. I know I may not have sent that to you that way. I sent it to you that way, but if you could expand it, that's great. But multi-generational. Right now, we are having individuals that are baby boomers, Gen Xers, millennials, and Zs. This is really important. So 89% of talent professionals, recruiters, HR are basically realizing that a multi-generational workforce is more successful. What they're also realizing is that people learn differently and different problems need to be solved generationally differently. So companies, both small and large, are doing that. If you could scroll down just a little bit. Okay, focus on internal recruiting. A lot of companies are boosting morale, employee morale, enticing them to stick around by promoting from within, advancing training, and letting people know that they're valued, or offering them, for individuals they don't want to lose, offering them this flexibility. So when Gary, let's say is working, says, listen, I want to kind of slow down. I want to take 3 months off. I want to take the winters off. I don't want to be up here anymore. Let me just, I want to go down to San Padre Island and come back in, April 20th. You okay with that? And now they're saying, instead of, well, Gary, you got to be all in, all or nothing at all. Now they're like, Gary, okay, if we can get you for 9 months out of the year, this would be great. Can you make yourself available if we have a question via email or whatever? Gary says, great, no problem. They get to keep Gary. They don't have to replace him with an individual that doesn't have experience and has intellectual information from the institution. And I don't mean institution meaning the mental hospital. I'm talking about the institutional learning from the corporation. So the idea behind it is, if it has institutional knowledge, it gives them time to transfer that institutional knowledge over to the individual that are not as experienced. So they can keep Gary for another 3 years at 3/4 pay. They don't have to overpay somebody else who's going to take 6 months to get up and running. They're able to keep Gary and his intellectual prowess in the company. Also, the rise of I'm sorry, let's go back on that a little bit. 1 second here, go back one thing. The other thing is internal recruiting is the use of referrals. A lot of companies are paying for referrals and they value referrals. I was at one company, we went from 12% referrals to 38%, at one time 41%. It crested, but it really was bordering about 38%. That means 2 out of every 5 hires were referrals. And we met, and somebody goes, oh my God, you're spending a lot of money. I go, referrals are a great retention tool. And number 2 is, if it shows that I will find most employees are more discerning than anybody at the company. When they give a referral, they're making sure they're checked out. Okay. So let's go down a little bit here. Rise of artificial intelligence. Okay. It used to be when you used to mail your resume and people would get it and they would open up the nice woven bond envelope that was handwritten or typed or whatever. They opened up that resume, it was on fine bond paper, and they read it. And in the mind of the individual, they were looking for certain things, keywords, experience, things that were directly related to the responsibilities. Now, then came the fax machine, which means you got it faster. You had to make a decision faster. Now, resumes, and then it used to be resumes used to get scanned in, and basically the next generation of faxing. Faxing was what they call putting the resume, attaching it to the record. Here are all the resumes. in single panes that you could look at on the screen. Now, resumes are being taken from PDFs and Word documents and Google documents, and they're being pulled in and being what they call parsed. And this has been the last 10 years, but the parsing now is basically they parse it, which basically means your resume goes in and it's literally word for word exactly what goes into the database. Not that it's Gary or Nancy's resume. It's Nancy space Jones. And then every word is pulled into the database and it can be searched and sourced by that word. So if in Nancy's resume, Nancy, what's your vocation, or what was your vocation?
I was a consultant in human resources. I had my own consulting company.
Okay.
Outsourcing.
Give me one. Oh, outsourcing. Give me another HR word that would have been in your resume.
Gosh, team building.
Good looking.
What was that?
Team building.
Team building. Okay. Team building. How about another HR specific, like program or certification or any of that you had?
Gosh, organization development.
Organization development. Okay. So right now what happens is Nancy applies to the position. It doesn't get faxed in. It gets, they ask them to apply a link, send to the link. The link basically goes in, and from that link goes in and those words are parsed. Then somebody goes in and says, show me all the resumes that have these keywords. Organizational development, human resources, consultant. Then guess what? All the resumes, of which Nancy made, instead of like 50 resumes or 200 resumes, if Nancy wasn't referred to this, Nancy probably may only be one of 8 or 10 resumes that they're going to look at. They don't care about somebody else that wants to get into HR because they don't want to do that. They want Nancy Jones, or they want somebody with Nancy Jones' experience. You pull them in, and then that's what happens. By doing that, that parsing, it's dehumanizing, and it's basically, it's dehumanizing. Nobody's looking at it saying nice font or whatever. What they're looking at it is basically a resume that has the keywords. However, what I'm telling people is make sure that you don't have boxes and colored graphics and stuff like that, because parsing tools don't like it. And they'll parse it, but it's a jumbled mess and people end up not liking it. But basically, resumes are being parsed and then reviewed for keywords on that. And the last thing is, companies now are realizing the power of the candidate experience. They want to make sure that if the individual doesn't get the job, that they have a positive feeling from the experience of going through the interview. Now, not everyone likes being, dismissed or not being accepted, but at least they don't say, they're now at least communicating back with them that says, we appreciate you applying. Lots of people applied. Yours wasn't chosen as a match. We'd like to keep you on resume on file for a year. Keep an opening for eyes for our openings. Keep an eye open for our openings and do it that way. What happens then is, even if with a bad news, they put the best spin on it possible, because they want to make sure that nobody, if somebody badmouths them, they're going to tell 11 people. They're going to go Glassdoor and all that. That's why companies are trying to do a better job of making sure that their employees feel fulfilled and engaged, because if they don't, they're going to leave. And if they leave, that's a real challenge. Turnover is a problem with some companies. So interview prep, by the way, if anyone ever needs to, I have access to an interview. I pay on a monthly basis. If you call me or email me, I have an interview prep course. It's not mine. I subscribe to it. And it's videos and articles on preparing for interviews. So it's great because you can watch it on your own. I just send you a password and a username and password for you to use. But if you want to, I'll send you access to it for a month. I'd happily pay for it. If you need more, you can call me up after the month and say, I need you to extend it, and I'll extend it out for you. Now, I'm just going to finish up here on an interesting article. I did not send, I don't think I sent this to Nicholas, but basically, why are people, and I did not send it to him, why are people changing jobs? And basically, a review of the pre-coronavirus business and human resources literature revealed that search, recruiting, and staffing professionals are likely to encounter a number of individuals who are motivated by one of these 10 considerations: a desire for more challenge. I'm sorry, the reason why I'm bringing this up is these are the reasons why people are looking for new opportunities. And when you're going for interviews, this is really good to know. And it's okay to not just say, I want to make more money, or I want to be a better person, or whatever. But these are the reasons why people change. And as a recruiter and HR people, we're seeing this, and we understand it. How you portray it is important, but certainly in a positive manner. But number one, or the number, not the first of the list, is a desire for new challenges and opportunities for career development. 2, poor relationships with peer employees and engagement with managers, supervisors, and leadership. 3, dissatisfaction with general workplace culture or environment. 4, limited opportunities to use knowledge, skill set, experience. 5, absence or lack of respect of achievements, or lack of for efforts or achievements. 6, alignment of employee and employer values. 7, inflexible protocols and demands of employee breeding stress and anxiety. That's 8, compensation and benefits that fail to keep up with the field and study. Notice that's money and comp came in 8 out of 10. 9, feelings of discomfort brought on by discrimination or harassment. And 10, denied or limited life-work balance objectives. Life-work balance now is becoming more prevalent. It was always in the back view, but as Jack Welch used to say back in 1980, it was really interesting. He said, you choose, you either work or you have a life. You know, you work to have the life, but if you want to grow in the company, there is no work-life balance. If you want to climb the corporate ladder, it's not what you do from 8 to 5, it's what you do from 5 on, or after 5. Now, whether you liked it or not, a lot of people did that. It's very prevalent in law firms, investment firms, and things like that, in certain areas of sales in certain companies. And I'm sure that's happening with IT and places like Google and stuff like that. Google is as great a company it gives them flexibility, but at the same time, the work-life blurs. And I've done lots of studies on Google, which is a great place to work, but there's a blurring. So the point I'm trying to make is that things are changing. And in reality, people are making moves for a lot of different reasons. It used to be money was number 1, 2, or 3. Now it's number 8. What's important now to people is challenge and opportunity to develop their career. Now, when I mean develop their career, it doesn't mean they want to be vice president tomorrow. It means to develop and expand their knowledge. Okay. It's about the relationships with their peers, engagement with their bosses and senior management. It's opportunities to expand on their skill set, experience, and knowledge. Absence of respect for their efforts or achievements. An alignment of employer and employee values. It's interesting. Companies can say they care. I've got one client, I've got 2 clients. One, they both say they care. One says we care by paying you some good money. And I have the other client that says, okay, we're going to pay a competitive wage, but we're not going to super pay you unless you perform. It's the sales organizations. And then what they said was, this is very interesting. We're going to allow you to have the unlimited PTO, but we're going to ask you to be discretionary. We're treating you like an adult. You got to do the work. What's funny is people who have this, who are very successful at their company, treat that PTO like gold. They will take the days that they want based on the needs that they have in life. kids' baseball games, planned vacations, things around around important people events. So the point that I'm trying to drive at in wrapping this up is what employers are looking for is different than what potential employees are looking employees are looking for. Companies are looking for individuals to solve the problems, who can understand what the job is, understand their culture. And in turn, when you go through the interview process, is to find the companies that can help address one of those 10 needs or multiple things of those 10 needs. So it becomes more of a discussion and intake. So my hope is that was informative. It gave you perspective from the other side of the fence. And I'm not saying I'm an advocate for the employer. I just see both sides of the fence. I'm the shock absorber between the employer and employee. I see both sides of the fence. So that's my presentation. I hope I'm glad I got it in under the hour, but what questions do you have for me? And ask me anything you want.
I'd like to ask you, I have a son-in-law that doesn't have a job and he needs some help maybe. And if I could talk him into calling you, would that be okay?
Absolutely. What's his name? Just his first name.
His first name is Andrew.
Okay. Just tell Andrew to refer your name. Give him, I'm going to give you my cell, 603-770-7175. Have him call me. I'll help get him. I'll look at his resume. More importantly, we'll run through some mock interviews. Most of the time, it's either they're in the wrong arena or they're interviewing. They don't have the right mindset in the interviewing. They're afraid or they're not bringing out their skill sets. They think they're bragging. So, but I'd be happy to help him. Absolutely.
Okay,
So,
great.
Henry,
Thank you.
what do you advise with the change in technology and how interviews are conducted? What are the biggest problems that people face? I mean, if they're on a Zoom call or what advice do you have for prospective candidates in maximizing their talents with the technology?
so are you talking about using technology to get the job or once they have the job?
To get the job.
To get the job. Okay. One of the things I could tell people is expect in a Zoom interview, there's very specific things like if you'll notice my head is almost not exactly like over here, and it's not down here. It's like
mine,
little, right, like right there. But things like lighting and and what's funny is sometimes it's a simple $20 camera that presents. I mean, I just happen to have this on my computer. My camera's on my computer. And it's good, but making sure you see what the other people are going to see. That's the first thing that I tell people. But technology is not going away. And even if you get the job, picture this, the employer is seeing you. This is how you're going to be. How do you want to be seen as an employee? Now, if you notice, at the beginning, Gary was with me, Gary and Nicholas. I was downstairs and the sun was shining in. I live on a lake and I love looking outside and seeing a lake when I'm working. By the way, I go to my office because it's just easier. It's harder to get stuff work done at home. I do it on snow days and rainy days, or if I'm expecting somebody here. But I said, oh, I got to bring this upstairs. So I bring the thing upstairs and I set it up and we test it to make sure I look okay. So, but technology is not going away. What will change is I think you're going to see the ability to communicate and articulate. Oral and written communications are going to be becoming more important than ever before. Mm-hmm. The ability to connect with individuals is going to be critical. And that's why I think you're going to see a lot more diversity and inclusion. And I'm seeing clients do it now. They all say diversity and inclusion. I say, what do you define as that? And they go, I go, and I said it very distinctly. I go, diversity and inclusion is not just adding a little color to your organization. We're talking about age. We're talking about diversity as far as religious beliefs, individual practices. I even said to somebody, diversity may mean that you're going to interview people who are witching. I'm just, they go, what? I go, I'm going to tell you, there are individuals that are, it's one of the diversity, and you may be shocked when you hire them and they brought on. That's good. It's that if you're talking about inclusion is not just inclusion on 2 or 3 spaces. Inclusion is as individuals on a lot of diverse interest, experiences, and ethnicities, nationalities, and behaviors and values. And that's really what it is. It's different values. So individual companies, when they're interviewing, you want to make sure that you are being present and professional in your presence. That's the key. And technology isn't going away. I think you're going to see a lot of this working from home. If they're not working from home full time, I think snow days, I think certain things
They're
with
done.
kids. What's that?
They're done for the most part. Both
Yeah.
of my kids are teachers, and they don't have snow days anymore. They have remote learning days.
Exactly. They got a remote learning, and now it's like, and now with COVID, I think you're going to see things pop up here and there. I mean, just because we all get vaccinated doesn't mean it goes away. There's variants. There's going to be booster shots. Everything I'm reading says it's not that we're back to normal. Normality is more of the norm, but there will be spikes and changes. But now we have the ability to change things up. You can work from home. I do most of I had in the last year, 98% of all my interviews were Zoom. I've had 6 interviews, if I'm lucky, that were in person. And by the way, it was very inconvenient. They're 6 feet apart. They're both wearing masks. I go, well, you can't even shake hands. So don't use the excuse that I need to see them in person so I could shake their hand, because you can't do that, right? If you're distancing. So I said to them, just do it via Zoom. Now, I help candidates make sure that they are presenting themselves, and I'm not talking about professional camera and lighting. I'm just talking about, all of us here, everyone looks fine, and in relation to it. I don't see any Playmate of the Month behind anybody, both women or men. I don't see, any. If you look at it, poor Nicholas is still at work there with those file cabinets behind him.
That's his house. His house. He owns a house now. That's his house.
But to make, that's where I think it's where technology's going.
Henry, I don't want to prolong this because I know everybody.
Oh, go ahead.
But a follow-up question on that. Okay, you're doing the interviews by Zoom, but what are companies doing in the pandemic age? I mean, are they inviting candidates into the company? How are they making choices, face to face?
Good question. They're doing interviews by Zoom. They're hiring by Zoom, and they're training by Zoom. They're doing everything. I have one client. They're a company out of Arizona. They only wanted people in Arizona. Then when the pandemic hit, they go, okay, they're going to let everyone work from home. I go, how are you going to train new individuals that don't have any sales experience from home? Why don't you hire remote salespeople that have the experience you're looking for? Because you're not going anywhere for a year. Took them 3 months. Then I placed now 8 of the 10 people I placed with them, all remote. Savannah, Richmond, San Diego, San Francisco, Texas, Houston, Texas, Dallas, Texas, and Florida, and Atlanta, Georgia. Why? Because they can do the job. What does it matter? If you're going to, if everyone's working from home, what does it matter if they're not coming back to the office before October anyway? By that time, you have the ability to grab talent that you normally wouldn't, and they do. And we've grabbed some great talent because they'll hire them, train them, and let them work remote.
Hmm.
That's not going to stop. I believe that you're going to see that more prevalent. I'm encouraging all of my clients, promote from within, but when you get a chance, hire remote. If that job can be done remote, if they're on the phone and they're a salesperson remote, if they're in an area and they have to go out and see clients, I understand, but they're still going to be working remote anyway. New skill sets, by the way, they're probably going to be looking for how well they use technology. By the way, the nice thing is it's really easy. That's the other thing I think you're going to see is companies are going to monitor people and mentor. They're going to monitor them more on the what you call it on via remotely. They're gonna watch and see what they're productive. By the way, most people they'll be as 80% as productive as they are in the office. But if you save a lot of money in rent and the individuals save commuting costs, commuting time, and I mean, literally somebody just said to me, I don't have to get up at 6:30 to get to work by 8:30. I get up at 7:45 and I'm at my desk by 8:15. And that's including taking a shower and eating breakfast. Okay. That's some satisfaction and productivity.
Yep.
Go ahead, guys. Ask me any other questions you want. I hope I didn't bore anybody.
No, you're good, Henry. I have a quick question. So I know we talked earlier about like the flexibility and like, seasonal and temp, all those types of stuff. Are you also seeing that when it comes to hours? Because, like the traditional 9 to 5 is pretty much gone in my mind. So like, are you seeing that too with companies? How they're like, we don't, like you're going to work Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but you're going to work really from 10 to 10 and you just have to do 8 hours in that time span.
Interesting. I'm seeing, as I've said to my clients, I keep in mind they're salespeople. And basically what I'm saying is if they achieve the objectives, what do you care what time they work?
Right.
So
They
if
get
they're
their-
on the phone heavy for 4 hours a day, then they're doing their 4 hours of coordinating. And the nice thing is when they're on CRMs, you can see what they're doing. You can see how many, you can see, you want to monitor their work, monitor their work. But as long as the job gets done, that's what that's what I'm telling people is you choose to do that or somebody else will give them that opportunity. You choose, give them the flexibility. They want to go to their kids' volleyball game at 4:30. Don't chastise them. If they work early or work through lunch, or, if they like to leave at 3:00, let them. What do you care? If they hit their numbers and their objectives and they're successful and they're low maintenance and low, it gives them high morale, good feelings about the company, and low issues of, no low numbers of issues. You have a happy employee. Isn't that where you want happy employees that are productive? What do you care? It's hard for people my age because we used to say, okay, you got to get in before everybody else. You got to leave after everyone else. Now it's all productivity. We don't care what time you get here and what time you leave. It's all an illusion. What matters is what gets done. And if you're good at what you're getting, you're done. And that's what companies are looking for. I'm not saying that, in an interview, you should say, I only want to work from these hours to these hours. What you want to say is what's the corporate culture like? Whatever it takes to get done. And I wouldn't say on day one, it says, I need to take every Thursday from 2:00 on. But what you do is you earn that trust and show that you can do it.
Gotcha.
Any other questions? Hey, Groucho Marxist. Marxist. I love that. Groucho Marxist. Any questions you have? I love your shirt, by the way.
Oh, you're muted, David.
So,
muted.
any questions or comments? I just had to pick on you because I liked your shirt.
Well, this was our newest colony in coastal Carolina. So I word in support of them.
That's great.
So
I'm glad. I'm so proud of the fraternity. It's always, I'm proud of all the changes and challenges that occurs. Can you believe it? 1895. Holy mackerel. It's long. I know I see you're a Devils fan. Is there anything that you'd like to add or questions? You're muted. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're still muted.
I can't hear him. I'm sorry about that. Ken, if you want to type in whatever. Michael, how about you? Any questions, comments? Okay. Mr. C, how about you? Michael, any comments or questions or?
Oh, no, I thought this was a really great presentation, Henry. And a lot of great information. As a, I'm a hiring manager. It's always nice to hear different perspectives on how to be better at that and what those trends are from an outside perspective.
The biggest advice I give to that I give to all my hiring authorities is at the very beginning, there's an inclination to grill and drive and grind them down. The best thing I could tell you is opening up a conversation is to talk a little bit about your experience with the company and why you like it and why you choose to stay there, and say, in this interview, I know you have lots of choices. I appreciate your time that you invested in researching and coming here, and I really look forward to our discourse. What that does is that brings a lot of stress down. It makes them feel that you want them. And it doesn't mean you have to offer them the job, but what it does is they're going to be a lot more open to you about what they're looking for, and they're going to be less inclined to give you their canned answers. That's what I think you'll find. And that's the advice I give most of my clients. I go, this is an inquisition. You want to make it an inquisition. You can do that if you're Oracle, Google, or Apple. And they don't do it as an inquisition per se, Apple or Google. It's just hard to get through all the process. But they make everyone feel good going all the way through. Everyone thinks they're going to get a job at Apple and Google when they interview there because they make them feel so good. But Oracle is a company that is known to be very direct. This is the way the interview is, but they got 50% turnover and they don't care. And that's okay. They're a great company. They got, if they're not good at something, they just go out and buy the company that does it better and gives it to their sales reps. But, that's the biggest advice I can give to you as a hiring authority is let them know how comfortable you feel, right? And you appreciate their coming in more than just, I really appreciate you coming in. It's an opportunity for you to give them a good feeling about that they've made a good decision in this interview, and you've made a good decision in selecting them for the interview. Mike C, how about you? Any comments?
Actually, my son is graduating from Pratt in Brooklyn with a degree in two-dimensional animation. And he was just sharing with me the fact that I guess in his field, what you were just saying, contract work is the norm.
Yes.
He actually had an internship with Sesame Street until COVID hit. And he's now, for his thesis, he has to make a 15-minute long animation. And he's promoting it on Newgrounds, which, all of this stuff is, I'm a science guy and teacher now. So this is all new to me. But he said the norm in his field was you don't get your master's degree yet. You have to work for a few years, then you get your MFA. And everything is done from home. He had me buy him a brand new Mac computer with all the top software. And he said that's the way it's going to be. And as a parent, my concern is what you mentioned. Like, you're on my health insurance till you're 26, but what are you going to do after that?
Well, I think what's going to happen is I think you're going to see some consortiums of associations that are going to offer it, or you're going to be able to join in, to the company plan, but you may have to pay into the plan. But most of the thing you're going to find out is a lot of his are maybe gig work or contract work that lasts 3 months. But the idea is if you got contract work, you're usually going to get paid more per hour. But that just means you got to get healthcare. Now, if you stay healthy at his age, I will tell you, a healthcare plan costs $500-600 a month. A good, solid Blue Cross Blue Shield. At that age, for the most part, they're probably going to get it pretty good. He gets up to my age, it's $900, okay, for the same plan. Him, it's $450. Well, you can get a Blue Cross Blue Shield plan. The key is to but start looking for it now or whatever. And, you know, he's on your plan until 20. Now he can be on your plan until he's 26, correct?
Yep.
Right. Well, at 25, you say you need to start looking and he'll start costing it out. But say, listen, start putting money away, you know, to have the healthcare, you know. In fact, what you should do is say at 25, your healthcare is 500. You need to put $500 a month into a healthcare savings plan that pays for the premiums. Even while you're on my plan, you pay me $500 and I will put it in a bank account for you so that you will have, worst comes to worst, if you're not working, you'll be at least able to have healthcare.
It's a good idea.
That may be an option. Any other comments, questions, or things?
Thank
I know
you.
I'm bored the hell out of everybody. I mean,
Not at
I
all.
like recruiting, but most people think it's really boring. But I've been doing it for 26 years, and you know, it's funny. I work as hard now as I do then, but I love it.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't work anymore, Henry, so, you know, I don't really need your help, but other people do. And I hope that some undergraduates will look at this and use you as a touchstone after you've offered it up to all of them.
Absolutely.
Certainly, we invited many of them, but, you know, everybody's busy. But maybe now that it's going to be posted on the website, it'll be easier for them to watch it and get something out of it.
Yeah, and if any of the brothers are looking, certainly, again, call me, 603-894-0007, extension 215. Email me at henry@salesrecruiters.com. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook. I'm in Salem, New Hampshire. My company is called Sales Recruiters. All you got to do is say I'm Alpha Chi Rho brother, and I'll do whatever I can to help you. I will tell you, I've got a couple clients that, for those that are getting into sales, just so you know, if I end up placing an Alpha Chi Rho brother, I take whatever my fee is or net the expenses of my staff. I don't take anything personally myself. I will donate that to the Alpha Chi Rho Educational Foundation.
Wow.
Wow.
So, but you know, that's only for Alpha Chi Rho brothers who,
Right.
I have a couple of clients that literally looking for entry-level salespeople. They have some restrictions, but there's some great opportunities for those. And I will tell any of the brothers who are in chapters who have who've been in leadership positions or have been in pledging or whatever, what I'll tell them is that's a sales tactic, and that's a sales skill that you have. You may not think of yourself as a salesperson, and I didn't think of myself as a salesperson before I got into sales, but I kind of gravitated to it. And but if any of those are interested, you have ways of communicating with me or communicate through the Educational Foundation. So.
Henry, is there a specific sales that you focus on? I mean, there's all kinds of sales.
Good
Industry,
question.
but
I mostly focus on professional sales, IT, business to business, a little bit of medical, not much, but distributive, inside sales, industrial, distributive, consumer.
Okay.
By the way, when I talk about me, I also have two other recruiting teams in my office. So they have others. What I don't do is I don't do retail sales, but I love to take out of people out of retail. But retail sales, stocks and bonds, or straight commission sales, or insurance. It's not because they're not good industries. They're industries that unfortunately don't pay a fee, and I don't work for free. So
Right.
I may work and make a placement and donate a portion of it to Alpha Chi Rho if it's an Alpha Chi Rho brother that does it, but I don't do my work for free. I'll give advice for free for brothers and be happily to do that. And for brothers that have needs of hiring people, I'll do whatever I can to advise them, help guide them, and refer them to somebody. But so.
This was great. Thank you. We could keep going.
Thank you very much, Henry.
I appreciate the effort. By the way, I want to thank Nicholas and Scott and Jay of doing a great job of pulling this off and putting it all together. When they came to me, I went, "Are you crazy? Nobody wants to hear me." And this will probably be the least popular podcast or webinar of them all. So
I don't think so.
So
I don't know.
that
I'll watch
was-
I'll watch the beer one again before I watch this. So. Well,
Well,
thank you very much.
And thank you, Henry.
Thank you, Henry.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank
Henry.
you.
You were
Thank you.
delightful. Thank
Take
you.
care. and
Have a good
great
one. Feel
evening.
free and communicate.
Henry.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.